Merry Christmas, everyone. For celebrating Christmas, I will be covering 12 animals that are somewhat related to Christmas in one way or another.
The Irish elk, or Megaloceros, is a misnomer because it was not exclusive to Ireland, nor was it an elk. It is a giant extinct deer, the largest deer species ever. It stood up to 7 feet at the shoulder, or 2.1 meters, with antlers spanning up to 3.65 meters or 12 feet. The Irish elk evolved during the glacial period of the last million years during the Pleistocene epoch. It ranged through Europe, North Asia, and northern Africa, and there is evidence of them in China. The name Irish has stuck because excellent, well-preserved fossils of the giant deer are especially common in the lake sediments of peat bogs in Ireland. The giant deer is great significance to paleontologists because of the way in which the animal has become involved in evolutionary debates down through the years. In the 17th and 18th centuries, it was becoming increasingly apparent that the fossils represented organisms that were not known to survive anywhere on Earth. But to scientists who believed in the divine creation of the Earth and its life, this proposed a jarring philosophical problem. Why would a good, perfect God allow any of his animals in his creation to die out completely? Many scientists denied the reality of extinction and instead suggested that animals known only as fossils would one day be found alive in some unexplored part of the globe. Monarchs erroneously identified the Irish elk with the American moose, while others thought the Irish elk was identical with the European reindeer. Not until 1812 did the great French scientist Georges Cuvier document the Irish elk, along with other fossil vertebrates such as the mammoth, did not belong to any living species of mammal. Cuvier's study of the Irish elk was a key part of the documentation that extinction had happened in the past. A once popular hypothesis evolutionary mechanism, orthogenesis, in which change in an organism was due to natural selection but to internal direction trends with a lineage. The Irish elk was once considered a prime example of orthogenesis. It was thought that the lineage had started evolving on an irreversible trajectory towards larger and larger antlers. The Irish elk finally went extinct when the antlers became so large that the animal could no longer hold up their heads or got entangled in the trees. Although orthogenesis was a common evolutionary theory in the 19th and early 20th century, it has since been abandoned for lack of plausible mechanisms. It is perfectly possible, however, to reconcile that the huge antlers of Megaloceros with evolution by selection. Some paleontologists suggest the enormous weaponry of the Irish elk served as a defensive purpose to kill predators and fight off rivals for mates. And more modern interpretation of its function of the antlers in giant deer suggests that they were used for sexual display, as they are in living deers. Some living deers use their antlers in ritualized combat at mating time, in which few individuals actually get hurt. It is possible that the Irish elk used its antlers in such a way. Whichever the case, sexual selection is most likely the explanation for why, through genetic analysis, have found that the closest living relative of the giant deer is the fowl deer. Both species might have found a mate in similar ways. During the mating season, the males of the fowl deer from what is called a lek is an area where females gather and males compete by roaring, parading side by side, and fighting by locking antlers and pushing and twisting each other. In this display, the strength of the bigger antlers were probably more intimidating to the other males and more desirable to the females, who would wander into the lek to choose their mate. Large and stronger the antlers, the more successful in mating the male deer would be, and the more offspring they would have as a result. Offspring which could inherit the parental genes for large antlers. Males of the species would have had to be built to carry heavy antlers. We know from looking at their fossils that the top of their skulls was extra thick and that they had very sturdy neck vertebrae. Fossils also indicate that the vertebrae in the shoulder regions were elongating, suggesting that males had a hump on their backs with muscles that might be held to carry the weight of huge antlers. As a result, they preferred to roam in parkland, a mixture of open woods and grasslands. The first wave of extinction for the giant deer was around 12,000 years ago, when it disappeared from Ireland, Britain, and most of Europe. During this time, at the end of the Ice Age, the climate became very cold and severe, and food for the deer would have been very scarce. But this period wasn't the end of the story. For the giant deer, after carbon dating a fossil bone collected from central Russia, there was one remaining enclave there until 8,000 years ago.